society and state to grow. The counterpart of it is that they take advantage of the development in their whole life. I think even Malaysia is a good example of developmental state. Okay. Is it clear for you, or do you have any question?
No, Doctor.
No question. Okay. Now I will speak about something else very, very quickly, okay? Because we want to stop in 10 minutes, inshallah. So we close the chapter. Now I speak about something completely different. Because I refer to the Qatar World Cup last time, we don't have time to develop things. I don't like to speak about daily events in the day because analysis requires time, and it's good to collect data. Meaning, when you watch TV, you just try to understand what happened. Or you read books, you read articles, you read newspapers, you try to digest first, then you can analyze. But I thought to tell you also about one thing that we studied in sociology, introduction to sociology, meaning social construction of reality. Because on the one hand, we have reality, but reality is objective. Reality is known by Allah, of course. Reality is something that humans, we don't get it. We get it, but not directly. We try to interpret, to make sense of reality. So we observe, we process, and we deduce things. So it's all about interpretation. So what we see is something subjective at the end of the day because it's linked to the meaning we give to the experience. It's based on the meaning we give to the observation. So what we see is proceed through our cognitive system, and then we analyze, and then we shape our behavior, our response according to our analysis. You understand that? It's a basic thing, actually. The example I gave is the group of students, for instance, if you make them think in the primary school, secondary school, you make them think they are intelligent, smart, that will make them smarter. They will perform well because they trust themselves. And so, and conversely, if you tell them they are stupid, useless, they will fail, you make them fail. You know? To keep it very, very brief. If not, if you have any questions, ask me and I will explain the process more in depth. But I think that's something accepted as common sense, but it was confirmed by many experiences, experiment as well as observations. It's like how humans work. Why? It's based on social construction of reality. Reality, الله الحق. الله الحق. يعني فقد الله يعلم الحق و reality or truth is known only by God, 100%. We try to understand it, but we observe things and we process, we interpret things. Interpretation is objective, and interpretation will lead to our behavior, our response through our life. Why I'm saying this? I'm saying that to speak about self-fulfilling prophecy again. Self-fulfilling prophecy was defined by Merton as the situation in which a false belief or prediction produces behavior that makes the originally false belief come true. So self-fulfilling prophecy is one of the example of social construction of reality, meaning something can be wrong, but the fact you believe in it make it true. You know? Actually, you fuel the reality by the way you imagine it. You influence, you shape the reality. And self-fulfilling prophecy gives a lot of evidence of that. I think everybody is familiar with the concept. Here, there's a scheme to keep that in mind. it's very useful now when we want to speak about the clash of civilizations. Clash of civilization was a theory developed by some American political thinker. So it's a theory. He wrote a book. If you want to, one day you can go to the book and check it. But it's a theory, meaning it's not the truth. And we don't care if it's the truth or not. Because the problem, if many people believe it's the truth, so it's becoming a truth. Why? Because the people believing that a clash of civilization is true, they will act accordingly, and by acting accordingly to the belief, they will fuel or they will feed hatred or animosity between civilization. And that work exactly like the scheme shows. You have that between states, but you have that also between people, between individuals. So it's very dangerous. Because if the state A thinks that state B is a threat, a problem for it, it will take some measures. And by taking the measures, state B will see that there is a problem. So state B also will take some measures. So then state A will say, oh, actually, we were right. And then the measures will be raised. Huh? For instance, they sent all their soldiers at the border. So state B say, oh, they sent all the soldiers at the border, will do the same, you know, and everyone think that what they observe is a threat, is a sign of animosity from the other states. Finally, it drives to the war. But actually, we speak about social perception, social construction of reality, because in the reality, there was no conflict. In the reality, there was no problem, but the fact that they thought there was a problem, it fueled a problem, leading to a conflict. You have that between people as well, between 2 or 3 persons or groups of people. You can have this self-fulfilling prophecy in many things. Even yourself, if you think you're so weak or sick, maybe you'll get sick. If you think you're able to find a job, then you find a job. If you think you can never find a job, maybe you cannot find a job, you know, because you will shape your own reality by the way you perceive it in that way. Okay. So that's also a concept. That's also something we want to keep in mind when looking at events today. Like I spoke briefly about the World Cup last Tuesday. World Cup, you have a lot of things happening, which is not linked to sport, but which is linked to politics. Because the way we see our own identity, the way we perceive our identity, the way we look at the world. And on the one hand, you had a lot of non-Muslim countries or foreign countries, European, but not only American as well, or even some Asians can be part of it. Some African countries can be part of it. Speaking about the fact Qatar organized the World Cup, and Qatar is a Muslim country, and the Muslims are like that and this and that, and they don't live as we do, and they prevent the alcohol to be sold, and they have so many restrictions. And on the other hand, you have Qatar playing the game Islam, like saying, okay, we are a Muslim country, we organized the World Cup. So somehow they became, in the eyes of people, a representative of Islam. So in both cases, you have this idea of difference between the Muslim world and non-Muslim world. But this is shaped also by some of the media talking about that. There is a good thing in it. If we are positive, we can see that it creates dialogue between civilizations, that people discover Islam going to Qatar and they take Shahada, some of them, and that's a positive outcome of this meeting. A negative outcome of the meeting is that also it fuels the animosity between some people, and they speak about Qatar, linking Qatar to Islam. So whatever they don't like in Qatar, they will say it's Islam. Imagine that people are a bit wasting too much money. I don't know. Just an example, like we can see in other countries. Then they say, Islam, these Muslims, they waste so much money, but in Somali, their Muslim brothers, they don't have much food and it's very weird. So Islam is not good. Actually, it's a behavior that we can witness sometimes. It's completely in opposition to Islam, but unfortunately, we know that it's done in Muslim countries. But for non-Muslims, sometimes they will associate that with Islam, and that's a problem. That's why I say there is a positive outcome, there's a negative outcome, because the positive outcome is that Qatar can help people to know Islam. Negative outcome is that Qatar has to acknowledge also that is not a represent of Islam, because nobody is a represent on Islam on earth. Or if you are a represent of Islam on earth, you're supposed to apply Islam 100% or 95%, which is not the case of Arab countries today, or even other Muslim countries. So the fact to acknowledge that also would be very useful to show distinction between Islam and between us, because we all have interest, we all have scenes, but even the states have their own scenes, meaning the states have their own contradictions and interests, which is against Islam. And the fact to not acknowledge that, sometimes it can shape a bad view on Islam and Muslims, that the enemies of Islam or just people doubting, just people trying to understand what happened, they may use that and think, okay, that's a negative part of Islam and of the Muslims, which is not the case. So under this World Cup, you can reflect in a lot of ways, but I say that to try always to be critical. We want to be critical in order to give more, to pave the way for an improvement, for doing better, or doing better for Ummah, for the Muslims, but also for the broader society, for all humanity. That's our goal. But this goal, it means often to be aware of our identity and to be a bit emotionally cold, meaning to think with our brain, not just with our feelings. Oh, I like it because there is Adhan. Yes, meaning that we want to contribute positively. Meaning that to contribute positively, I have to understand, okay, is what we call Muslim identity is something, but what more important is to try to implement Islam in our life, in our society. And Islam means a lot of things. It doesn't mean the way I dress, it doesn't mean the way I talk. It's also about values, ethics, principles. This is much more important. And sometimes, sadly speaking, we forget that in this kind of event, because everything is like Islamic or Muslim varnish, like Muslim appearance. Oh, mashallah, there is it's Islam. But actually, Islam is to know what is Islam. We need to go to the Quran. When you go to the Quran, there are complex parts, but also there are easy surat or ayat to understand, like Surat Al-Isra. If we read Surat Al-Isra, if you don't know Arabic, you read translation. Then you get an idea of how Muslims are asked by Allah to behave, what kind of values, what kind of behavior we have to promote. And that it's important to recall that, especially when at the time of this clash of identities, where religion somehow is used as an identity. But Islam is not identity. Deen, it doesn't mean identity. Deen, it means way of life and worldview. It encompasses both. So it's the way I live my life and my worldview, my understanding of the reality, like the creed, the belief. Yeah. So just a quick reminder. I want to be long about that, but I thought that it's good always to be analytical, whether we like it or not. Whatever we see, it can be interesting in the eye of a sociologist or a political sociology perspective. There are a lot of things to say, and that's why also I invite you to think about that in your assignments, in your research, in your paper writings, and so. So now I need to go for another course, so I cannot continue. But we have spoken about an hour 20. I mean, I've spoken quite a lot, and I keep in touch for any information you need by email, inshallah, because next week there is no class. So in the meantime, if you need, you can contact me. Please contact me by email rather than WhatsApp. Not because I don't want to respond to your WhatsApp message, but WhatsApp also I have problems with my phone now. I need to get a new phone. Then when I change, sometimes you lose the message. You cannot keep track. So email is always a more professional way to deal with data because you keep track on things. You can go back to the email you sent. Also, I can make sure that I reply to you. So sorry if I take time. Just remind me. Sometimes I'm quite busy, and if you see that I don't reply, you just write me another time. Thank you, and tell me now if you have any questions. If not, later by email. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.